Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So we started in yesterday with Don't Feed the Animals, which again is a wonderful kind of thing to remember as you are talking with folks that you care about, that sometimes care doesn't wear the face of agreement or sycophantic kind of behavior, the yes man kind of stuff. Sometimes care looks like calling somebody out on their stuff. And not in a self-righteous way, not in a, holier than thou kind of thing, but just saying, hey, look, man, I don't see it the way you see it. I don't think this is happening the way you think it is the beginning of what I want to talk about today. And this is care that essentially does not allow productive conflict. Right? So oftentimes you're going to find folks that disagree in your life. And those folks, when they talk to each other, are going to make a ton of mistakes in how they fight and what they talk about and how they do it. And you coming in and airdropping, playing Peacemaker, prevents the conflict that they really need to have to move forward. It feels like care, but effectively you're delaying the inevitable. And when you combine this with the other stuff that happened this week, like giving those gold stars for that, conspiratorial thinking or whatever the sort of erroneous way of thinking is, or by essentially, actualing them to death on stuff that doesn't matter. It's not important. When you kind of start to put all these things together, you'll find that a lot of folks, in service to avoiding their own discomfort when conflict arises, they essentially walk in the room and put everyone at arm's length and try and keep the conflict at bay. Now, this is really hard. If you don't like conflict, and most of us don't love it, letting folks have conflict in front of you is difficult. And I can't tell you a way that makes it less difficult explicitly. The first thing that has to happen is it's a situation that you have to understand is out of your control, and that the conflict needs to happen the way it needs to happen. Now, you can ask good questions. You can participate in the conversation or the conflict. Again, caveat here, never physical altercations. There's no conflict that's ever won by a fight, physical fight. All that does is essentially take the emotional content off the table. And even if somebody is a clear winner or clear loser, the feelings don't go away. When it comes to, productive conflict where they have a disagreement on approach to solving a problem, or when they disagree on the nature of the problem itself, this is where, you can take all of your skills, your care-based skills, and help ask good questions, help nurture a productive conversation, and build through a conflict, as opposed to not allowing it, which again just sort of causes the situation in a lot of cases to fester. We will look at situations in our lives where we think, well, that was a conflict that I avoided, and nothing came of it. And I think that lens is problematic in a lot of ways, because by avoiding that conflict and taking the tension out of the situation, letting time do that sort of heavy lifting there, you actually not just didn't necessarily solve the conflict, you also denied the conflict the chance to actually strengthen the relationship. There are few things as bonding as overcoming adversity with another. And by understanding that adversity can be self-created and created in conflict with others, you really have opportunities when you have an agreement or a disagreement to get closer together. And so by shutting all of that down because you're uncomfortable, because the conflict shouldn't happen in front of you or nearby you because of your discomfort, it feels like you're carefully making sure that no one gets their feelings hurt, but in fact, you're denying all of that. And so that's another way that the trowel shows up and gets misused, probably because as a practitioner with a trowel, you're managing based on your own discomfort. So think through these things when we talk about the workman's roles and kind of why they're so important and why I wrote them in the book. It's because of situations like this where oftentimes, with the sort of most well-meaning of intents, we take these principles and misapply them. And this is an attempt to help you learn maybe another way to look through these things and become stronger and become a better workman, and in turn, build better relationships in your life.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.